Facebook News Live. It's taking a while,
All right.
very strange what this says for live.
I haven't gotten the alert yet that we're live, so I don't know if it went through.
This is like HQ.
It is. We can build that into the podcast. All right.
Now it's showing up.
Okay, just let me know when.
Go ahead, it's just lagging a little bit, but listen.
Okay, so hello to everybody on Facebook Live. This is Frank Washkuch from PRWeek. I have a great guest this week for you on our weekly podcast. It's Elan Shou, Elan Shou from Reuter Finn, and Diana Bradley is with us as well. She's our senior reporter, and she's going to bring you up to speed on two of the best stories that she wrote for PRWeek.com this week. So without further ado, I'm going to attempt to hit record, and we will start our podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PR Week. That's PR Week's weekly podcast for everything going on in the worlds of PR and communications. My name is Frank Washkuch. I'm the news editor at PR Week, and I have a great guest for you this week from Reuter Finn. It's Elan Shou, and she is with us all the way from Reuter Finn's Asia offices, where you just got a new role, didn't you?
Yes. I used to be the managing director of Reuter Finn Greater China. So I used to cover Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, and Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the new assignment to be the regional director of Asia.
Mm-hmm. So a bit of a broader role and brief for you going forward.
Exactly. It means my role will be extended into Singapore, India, and Malaysia.
Mm-hmm. Now, how many offices does Reuter Finn have?
We have 14 offices in Asia, but we also have an affiliate network.
Mm-hmm. So you were focused on China before. Now you're extending into all these other countries. What is the first thing that you're doing?
The first thing is visit all these offices and really talk to the team, look at the figures, look at the client portfolio, understand what's happening in those markets. Because one of the things in Asia is really, you see, it's a big and diversified market.
Right.
That every country is different. So you need to really spend the time there to understand it.
When I read about the Asia PR market, I always find it very daunting just how diverse all of the individual countries are. And I'd imagine that's a huge challenge, getting to know all of the intricacies across the market.
But that's the fun part.
Yeah.
That's the fun part. I give you some example that you will find it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, if you go to India, although we know India speaks English, but it's also very important for you to know that they also speak local languages, which is more than 100 local languages there.
Wow.
So when you have a press release, think about you translate the press release only in India. It can go for 3, 4, 5, 6, even 10 languages. So that's tell you, even within India, it's a lot of diversification, right?
I can imagine, and I have enough trouble just with English, so I can't imagine trying to get across 10 languages with every single piece of content you're putting out.
Yeah.
So you're taking on this new, so you mentioned Singapore is one of them. Which of the markets are you most looking forward to getting to know? And
Singapore.
Singapore.
Really, Singapore. I think it's going to play a more and more important role as a regional hub. But different reasons. So I'm very keen to know more about Singapore and how we're going to do better.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think Singapore is?
A lot of things. Because Singapore is the gateway to the Southeast Asia, and it connects beautifully of all those different regions, and Southeast Asia is really booming. So you can see that its role is getting more important.
Interesting. So tell us a little bit about your history. How did you get into PR? Since PR is a little bit of a newer industry in Asia than it is here. So how did you get into it?
It's even newer. Uber in China, you know.
Sure.
After graduation, my first job was an auditor in Ernst & Young, because when I graduate, I major in international accounting. So I know figures. A lot of people say that PR people do PR because they don't know figures. I literally do know figures.
Okay.
So, but after 6-9 months in Ernst & Young, I realized that's not the part of life I really like, because that's black and white, but I would like to have a colorful life. So I changed my role. I talked to some people. I went into a ads firm for 3 months, so I know ads a little bit. And I found that I'm a creative, literally, I mean, drawing. At that time, artwork is really not what I'm good at. I know what is beautiful and what is not, but I cannot draw them. So I think that's the wrong piece of business for me. Then I realized there is something interesting happening. People are saying there is a career called public relations, and in that time, there's only one agency in China famous for public relations, which was Edelman. So I found a telephone book and found Edelman's name, and I literally called that office and got my job.
Very interesting stuff.
Yeah, that's where I get started. I worked for Edelman for 2 years, then I moved to Rudolphin for 8 years, and I jumped the boat and I to another agency for 1.5 years, and I come back to Rudolphin.
So that's interesting, and I'm betting that just given the pace of change in the past 8 to 10 years, you've seen a lot of change there. What sticks out to you the most?
The rise of the local agency, the understanding of the importance of PR, and the PR people become more and more hot in this market, that everyone wants to have PR in-house, and also the digital is clearly changing the landscape.
What is, when you say changing the landscape, what's social media like in the Asia market broadly?
I divide Asian market into China and non-China. Of course, there in North Korea, there's no social media, so forget about that part. It's non-China part. It's really Facebook, Twitter. You still have your. It's very similar to the U.S. market, but within China, we don't have Facebook, we don't have Twitter, we don't have a lot of things. So even no WhatsApp. So in China, it's about Weibo and WeChat. Okay, so it's a two different landscapes. So that's the social media part. But on the other side, you can see that the social media is becoming more and more powerful in terms of the daily communications and in terms of the impact to business, no matter it's to the consumer marketing or to corporate branding. It's all becoming more and more important.
If you were speaking to a Western audience, to Western marketers and PR folks, and they did not know about Weibo, how would you explain it to them?
Now Weibo is very similar to Facebook.
Okay. And WeChat is somewhat similar to any kind of...
WeChat is combination it's a combination of Facebook, Twitter. It's a combination. And it also combines payment method, it combines everything. So WeChat is a social platform that basically you can put your life on it.
Interesting. And a little bit scary too, right?
It depends.
Sure.
It's very, very convenient. Think about that. You can literally live on WeChat. In the morning, you begin to read all the news. You know what's happening, and then you know what your friends are doing. Then you call a taxi from WeChat. There is a function there called Pocket, and you can call an Uber from WeChat. You get to your office. Then you open it, use WeChat to communicate with your media friends, with a lot of people telling them what to do next. And then you have a lunchbox, you order it from WeChat. And in the afternoon that you have a payment, you buy something, and you pay it from WeChat, and your friend owes you some money, he transfers the money to you through WeChat.
Very interesting, and I think that we in the States are seeing a lot of that pop up in different functionalities of our phone, but not quite in the same place. Diana, have you ever ordered food from Facebook or anything like that?
I actually haven't. No, have you?
No, I haven't even tried, and I don't think it would end well.
No.
But if you look at Apple Pay in the U.S., that's expanded into iMessage and things like that. Yeah.
It's the same thing, but when you go to China, it's all about Alipay and WeChat Pay. That's the two, and they are really going into the other part of the world, right? In Japan now, with the tourism, with the tourists from China, right? There are so many tourists around the world. They get used to mobile pay. They get used to Alipay and WeChat Pay. So when they go to Japan, they're asking, "Can I pay through my mobile instead of using credit card?" So clearly, they get into Alipay, get into the Japan market. So I believe all these payments will get more and more popular with the tourism booming.
And I think we're a bit behind on that in that every single time. I remember when I first got Apple Pay, I couldn't wait to use it all over the place, and then you found that it worked differently every single place you tried to use it.
I would definitely encourage you guys to begin to use WeChat. WeChat has an overseas version. Tencent is our client, but I'm not promoting WeChat because Tencent is our client, but simply because it is convenient. And I told Tencent that you might want to promote it as a business tool, because when you work with Chinese partners, or you have a client in China, it's the most convenient way to communicate with them is through WeChat.
Sure. You mentioned Alibaba. I remember a couple of years ago when they had their IPO over here in the US, and it made such a splash, and Alibaba made such a splash as a company. And I think it impressed a lot of people in terms of how they handled the roadshow, how they handled communications going up and before the IPO. What is the image of Alibaba like in China, in its home country?
In China, we say there are three giants. Literally, there are two giants when you look at that. That's Alibaba and Tencent. So we describe them differently. Tencent is you can think about Massachusetts, the University of Massachusetts, which is more science-based, tech-based, conservative in terms of communication, and also more like progressively develop their own product, science-based. So that's Tencent. Alibaba is more like a Harvard.
Okay.
More outspoken and love to communicate, good at talking about themselves. So people like them and love them. That's the two different worlds that we are talking about. So outside of China, clearly Alibaba has a lot of voice share, but in China they are literally doing good in different ways.
Now, you mentioned the Asia market broadly. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, are you guys doing anything for the Winter Olympics that is coming up?
No, we're not. But I think with it's coming up, there's more clients that will get involved. So we'll get involved with the client's work. We're not involved with the government work.
No, but are any of the marketers doing any sort of activations around the Olympics or things like that?
Yeah, definitely in Beijing. You know our clients' Visa. So definitely they work on that. And there are other clients, big pharmaceutical clients and consumer clients. Yes.
What's the level of anticipation like for the Winter Olympics? It varies around the world. You know, it's popular here, less popular with some of our colleagues from the UK.
It's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Winter sports used not to be a very popular sport in China. It's not. But what we can see is with the Winter Olympic comes on, that more and more people pay attention to it, like skiing or skating. Skiing is really getting popular. You go to the skiing part is mostly in the northeast China. So like the White Mountain, the Changbaishan, the White Mountain, and Heilongjiang, all these places are getting so hot. You begin to see resorts and people flying there for the winter vacation, which you've never seen before.
Interesting stuff. But I'm a bobsled person myself. Not that I could pull it off, but that's the one part of the Winter Olympics I enjoy watching the most. So if you're talking to an audience of Western marketers, Western PR people, especially based in the US, what is the one thing they need to know about the Chinese market?
Segmentation.
Okay.
Segmentation. And remember, in China, it's not only Shanghai, Beijing, and Guangzhou. I mean, people getting into China, they will understand that there are also Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen is the first tier cities.
Okay.
Then you have the second tier cities and third tier cities. That's the first segmentation I'm talking about. The city-wise, there are a lot of difference. Behavior difference, media consumption difference, and preference difference. You have to understand it's a huge market. You should consider China like a Europe.
Okay.
So you have French, you have German, who can be totally different. So don't consider it's a consistent market, it's a segmented market. And also with the fast growing of the economy, the segmentation also goes into the generation gap. Like we say 5 year make a huge difference. Okay, so it's like 70s. I'm not going to expose my age. So 70s are complaining of the 80s. 80s are complaining of the 85, and 85 is today complaining that the 90s are coming up. So every age has a different priority, and you can see that with when it's going younger, social media is playing a more and more important role. And like in the Western, that the platforms are different.
When you say the platforms are different?
It's like people 70, 80, they use WeChat more frequently.
Interesting.
Okay, then when you go to the younger team, QQ Zone becomes more popular.
And what is that?
QQ Zone is another platform of Tencent.
Okay.
Okay. So you have different platforms. Don't take it for granted. This is the platform I use. Think about the segmentation and choose the right platform.
But China has a pretty robust print market still, right?
Are you sure?
Well, I heard that someplace. Tell me if I'm wrong.
What do you mean by print market? The whole traditional media is shrinking.
Okay.
And significantly. In the past years, we continuously see leading print media losing its space and close and or merge.
So very similar to here, in other words.
Very, very similar.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for coming
My
on the
pleasure.
podcast. I'm going to briefly kick it over to Diana Bradley, who's going to talk about two of the stories that she's worked on this week. And if you would like to comment at any point, just jump right in. So first of all, tell us a little bit about a story you did about a candy brand and how it's making the most out of a partnership with a surprising star NFL player this year.
Sure. So, New Orleans Saints running back Alvin Kamara has
Who was on one of my fantasy teams this year, I should point out, and did very well. And I'm very
Congratulations.
Thank you. Sorry.
He's loved Airheads since he was a child. Airheads didn't know this until late October, and he had tweeted about it. So in response, they sent him like literally a boatload of Airheads, and he took that and made a throne out of them and sat in them and tweeted that picture out. And then that led to this kind of back and forth dialogue between them on social media that has really paid off for the brand. So he took, because they gave him so much candy, he was then passing it out at various games. He's been passing them out every time he scores.
Which he's
outlets
not
have
required
split it
to
out.
do. We should point
He's
out.
not required to pass them out. This all led to a modest partnership between them, a modest paid partnership between the two, and which started in early December. And that basically, he has to now tweet about Airheads, I think, once a week until the Super Bowl.
And Airheads got a great mention during the one playoff game broadcast on Sunday.
Yes.
When he was passing them out after he scored.
Yes, and ESPN reporter Darren Rovell, did I pronounce that right?
Close enough. We'll forgive you.
You can tell that I'm really a sports person. He tweeted that sportscaster Joe Buck mentioned the brand on air, giving Airheads $433,000 in equivalent advertising time. So that's pretty impressive.
Did you believe the number? Does that sound about right to you?
It was during the actual broadcast, so...
Yeah, I could see it. And it was an extremely well-watched game. So
Yeah.
I could absolutely see it.
And apparently Joe Buck almost never mentions a brand, so that was also another win for them.
It is a win for them.
It is a win for
And
them.
it was a smart move, and we could use plenty of other sports analogies.
And other coverage, Sports Illustrated wrote a feature about Kamara, and this was last week. And a big part of the feature explained that he has a drawer that's full of Airheads in his kitchen, and whenever you go to his house, he offers Airheads to people, and it told all the different flavors. Yeah, so they went into extreme detail about his whole relationship with Airheads.
There are people who are paid millions and millions of dollars to endorse things who don't promote them that much.
Yes,
They really
and
don't.
they.
You can't fake that, I don't think.
Yeah, and when I talked to Airheads, they explained that this has been very organic. They're not really instructing him to say or do anything. All he's doing is tweeting for them once a week. Everything else he's doing is just off his own back. He just really loves the candy, and yeah. So, and and now even the Saints players have been referring to Airheads as their voodoo magic. So, who knows where this partnership will go.
So the big question, will this go on for another week? Do you think the Saints are going to beat the Vikings in advance this weekend?
Sure.
Okay.
They have voodoo magic
So
because
that's
of Airheads.
an official prediction from Diana Bradley, our senior reporter. If you lose money
Sports.
betting on the game, you're in Paris.
Pro.
So. I'm kidding. Don't
Blame
do that.
Frank.
Don't do that. Blame me. I put her up to it. Okay,
Yeah.
tell us about the story that I am waiting with bated breath for, that you're filing today that we are going to run tomorrow morning.
Sure.
It's about one of the hottest properties in digital media.
It is. HQ Trivia. If you're not playing it, then you live under a rock, in my own opinion. But yeah, it's basically I've been talking to experts, asking about what they think the secret sauce is with HQ, because while it's very popular, there's a lot of elements to it that you would think would turn people off of the game. Like, it has very low cash prizes. It has very distracting
the prize
glitches.
last night was like $23 or something.
Yeah, like even so they have like people can win $10,000, but multiple people win, and then it ends up like you only really win $10 if you win. So there's that whole thing. They have so many glitches that the host is called Lag Daddy. They have false starts. But
people claim they get kicked off because the question and answer thing doesn't work right.
Yeah, and sometimes they're even wrong about the answer. Like, they've written it all out incorrectly, and then they give people extra lives to make up for it. But all of this is not turning people away. It just recently exploded to 1.2 million people.
That was wild.
Yeah,
I
they
was
just
playing
logged
that
in to
night
play
and
a
it was
single
wild.
game. Yeah.
Yeah.
So people love it, and there's a few different reasons why it's so popular. First of all, just the way that they've marketed it. It's been seemingly almost no promotion, and they are relying on word of mouth. They have the HQ users can earn extra lives by having non-users sign up with their referral code. So it's almost like people are promoting it for them. In that way, and all you have to do is say to somebody, hey, you can play this game and win money, and that's what I said to Frank, and then it took him a few months, but he finally joined.
I don't think I ever actually used your code.
You didn't?
No.
Because I didn't get an extra life.
I'll get on that. I'm sorry about that.
But there's that whole element. There's also the fact that it's almost like, it's also the talent. The host, Scott Rogowski, does a good job during all the glitches of keeping people online and like playing. He keeps people from logging off with his comedy routines and whatever. That's a big part of it, but there is a risk there because they have guest hosts that fill in whenever he takes a little break.
But I prefer Sarah too.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. She's okay. I haven't really liked any of the others besides Scott. So, but yeah, but she's all right. I think she'll do well.
So what question did you get knocked out on last night?
I actually didn't play last night for the first time in a while.
I got knocked out on a very easy question. I think the fourth. And it's amazing how many. Because I'm quite good at Jeopardy, but then of course you get to pick the questions you want to answer.
Right.
Whereas with this, you have to answer them anyway, and I'm always getting knocked out by like the fifth question. It's somewhat embarrassing.
Most people do. I feel like that's like the magic number.
It's
I did get
very
to.
difficult for a $20 prize.
It is. I got to question 9 was the farthest I've ever gotten.
That's pretty.
I was
good.
very proud.
I can't say I've done that even with an extra life.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, and you bringing up Jeopardy, that's interesting. A few people I talked to said that one thing that makes this game so popular in comparison to something like Jeopardy is that you can interact with the host.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit more interesting, and that's really drawing consumers
And it's
to
obviously
the whole
very
live
millennial
interaction.
focused. It has a very young vibe to it. I mean, it's even the way they do push notifications about when the game starts.
My mom plays it though.
Yeah.
So
Okay. She's
yeah.
probably much better at it than I am. So. Okay.
Yeah, she's all right.
Elan, thank you again for joining us this
pleasure.
week. Glad we had you on. And Diana, thank you again for this rundown. You can catch that story tomorrow morning, Friday morning, on PRWeek.com. So thanks again for listening or watching on Facebook Live. This is Frank Washkuch, and this has been another edition of the PR Week.